Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another Trigger in the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, and I'm joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. And we're back here with the show that brings you all the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. And this episode revolves where everybody's eyes are at right now, seeing the performance and seeing the movie, the brand new film by Marvel Studios, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Yes, we will discuss the film at length and then also how it's been doing and what that means ultimately for what is going to happen to the other films that are supposedly going to be released in the year 2021. All that and more here on today's episode, Red Spotlight number 347. Peter, how are things like from your side of the world?
Oh, most splendid, good sir.
How is the Rona?
Yes.
Right. So, we usually, before we get into the actual news of the show, like to start off with catching up with what we've been watching this week. It's a segment we've been doing for, well, since the pandemic happened, and since we're still in the pandemic, kill me.
Since the before times.
Since the before times, this is the part of the show where we reveal what it is that we have been watching this past week. There really isn't much for me to actually say this time. I guess I second-handedly, because I didn't see it, I just saw reaction videos of it. I rewatched WandaVision through someone else reacting to it. And that was cool. It's still fucking great. It's a really great rewatch, actually. I would say it's more rewatchable than the other two. Because I was also trying to watch those reactions for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I just couldn't get into it. I was like, yeah. Anyway, there was that. I also saw the new episode of What If, the Marvel Studios animated show on Disney Plus, and I'm in a really weird place about it. I can't decide if what I'm watching is technically great or if it's just better by comparison, because this is the second week in a row where I feel like what I'm seeing with this series is far better than what the characters were given to do in their actual films. So, for example, I said that in the third episode, or actually it may have been the second episode, I forget what week we're on. In the second episode, it featured T'Challa, and I said that not only do I like him better in this one episode, but I think that whole episode was far better than his actual movie. And then you have another instance where Doctor Strange is featured as in his main storyline in What If, and not only is it better as far as character is concerned, but it's also just better as far as, and I just wonder, it's like, do they realize, Marvel Studios, they're really making their movies look bad by comparison? 'Cause I don't think it's all that special. I think it's a good animated show, but I feel like it's just much more, it's made much more better.
More better?
Compared to with how some of the lacklusterness of other movies in the roster are concerned. What I did find hilarious, though, is that Doctor Strange episode really... apparently Christine is a character. Christine apparently was played by Rachel McAdams in the movie. And the crux, if you will, of that episode was their romance and their relationship and it treating it as such. Which is hilarious because when you watch the movie, Christine wasn't a character. She was just fucking there to collect a paycheck on behalf of Rachel McAdams.
Is she going to be in the second one?
I don't know if that's been announced, and I don't know if anybody cares. But it's just like...
we can't develop relationships. We need more room for multiverse cameos.
We need more room for other characters that have been in other movies to come in and do their thing. So But overall, I'm enjoying the animation style of it. And I'm enjoying the episodes.
I dropped off after the first episode.
A lot of people did.
I just don't care. I don't know.
But I don't even think that's... Sure, I think that's a big reason for why people would not want it. But if there's a reason for why people dropped off, it's because it's an animated show and it's not a live action show.
For sure.
Animation is just not a priority when it comes to people, I guess, in America. So the fact that it was animation was kind of a non-starter. And that's what it is. So it's funny, been watching some certain someone's reviews, and she starts off with like, wow, you guys really don't like this, or no one's really watching this. And it's interesting to see this person kind of like defend something she loves, and yet no one's giving it the time of day.
Don't. Okay.
So that's what I am noticing there. And as far as anything else is concerned, I did see Shang-Chi. We're talking about that movie. And yeah.
So nothing non-Marvel related.
I don't know what that was supposed to mean. I mean, but
so nothing non-Marvel related.
Right. Okay.
Because you saw Shang-Chi, rewatches of WandaVision.
What did you watch this week, Peter?
Why do you
Come on, we have a ticking clock here. I'm not really in the mood. I'm not in the mood for these really irrelevant side tangents. Let's just get to what we need to say here. What did you watch this week?
What did I watch? Let me look at the list I compiled. How much Marvel is on here? This is one. But we'll get to that eventually. There is, however, DC. I watched, well, at least I started, like, the first couple episodes of Doom Patrol. I started watching that. What's his name? David. I know David really likes it, because he has said over and over how much he loves the show. And, I gotta agree, it's a pretty good show. I think it's I see why people really like it. I think it's good. I'll have to talk to him about that show because it's really good. I saw the first 2 episodes of season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows. It is still firing on all cylinders, still very funny. And I like how they've...
Are you sure you're not talking about season 4?
Is it 4? I thought it was 3.
I was under the impression it was the 4th season. What David told me, anyway.
No, it's 3.
It's 3? Okay.
Yes. If I'm wrong, may lightning strike me down.
Again?
I am correct. Ha ha ha. But no, it's really good. And it does that thing that I like about shows where they continue the narratives, right? Because some shows start off with the hook and then they wrap that up and then the show just keeps going and it does other things. But like the bullshit that started in the first ever episode of the show is still like rolling through.
Really?
Yes. And I think that's really funny. And I hope that continues for the whole series. But yeah, it's a new dynamic at the beginning of this new season.
I love new dynamics.
Yeah, no, and it's one where I'm like, this is perfect because it provides a lot of opportunity for new situations, so to speak.
I see.
Like, that's cool. It's on Hulu, so I gave it a watch. The show Reservation Dogs, about a bunch of punk kids that live on a Indian reservation. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was produced by Mr. Taika Waititi. I think you saw the trailer. They show them in the movie theaters sometimes. The trailer of that show. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it. And then I watched a sketch comedy show called I Think You Should Leave. That's on Netflix. It is a very, very weird sense of humor. I would not recommend it to you, but I found it funny. So yeah, that's what I watched.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get into Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, and the box office. So, before the film debuted, everybody was kind of concerned about how it would do because there were already a lot of the studios are getting cold feet because just about every single film, with very few exceptions, was just not making any kind of real money. People had gone back to not watching movies in theaters, presumably, and I believe you can track it with some really wonderful graphs if you look them up. The rise of Delta variant with the disappointing box office for weeks on end. That there definitely seems to be a correlation there. And there were basically two assumptions. If Shang-Chi was able to do enough, perhaps we could get the rest of the calendar films to remain where they are for this year is concerned. However, if it were to do really badly, Suicide Squad level badly, then it would really put everything up in the air. And it just wouldn't look good. And it would be kind of a disaster if Shang-Chi was a disaster.
Yep.
That's kind of what we were facing toward this weekend. And I think we were a little bit nervous because we went to a Marvel movie premiere in our neighborhood here, and it was relatively empty. And that's just not what you would think Marvel movies would rate as far as, attendance to audiences. So we were getting some early barometers. I mean, anecdotal barometers, if you will. That something just wasn't feeling right about it. But something apparently happened that proved otherwise.
It was a Marvel movie.
Apparently. It is also a holiday weekend, and to remind people off the bat that when you see the trades report on a particular number for the movies, they like to combine one additional day to your historically 3-day weekend, right? So your Fridays, your Saturdays, your Sundays, you have a cumulative total. Because it is a holiday weekend, this being Labor Day weekend.
Is that fair?
They do that thing. Well, hold on a minute. They do that thing. Is it fair? I'm not here to litigate that. No, it's not. But they do that here because they do it every single holiday. They do it Christmas, do it 4th of July. It is what it is. But we also still have the 3-day total. So that's what I put more emphasis on. We'll get to that point. So that's why I'm trying to get this out of the way with. So 4 days instead of 3 days. Is it fair? No, but it is what it is, right? They do it to get the headline that they want, is what they say, So for the 4-day total, it's currently projected, and mind you, we're recording this as it's happening in real time. This will be uploaded about a week later, so it is what it is. It says here by Hollywood Reporter, smashed box office records for Labor Day with an $83 million plus opening. Now that's for the 4 days, right? That's pretty big. What did it do for the 3 days? To have an apples to apples comparison, right? So it currently, from these particular numbers, is bringing in an estimated domestic 3-day total of $71.4 million, which is a lot higher than practically any movie since Black Widow. In fact, if you look at this, it was just, roughly speaking, $9 to $10 million short of reaching the number that Black Widow opened with back in the beginning of July. And I don't think most people were that optimistic that it would do that. So, for the moment, this seems like overwhelmingly positive news as far as the rest of us who really like movies to get to see them at the very least in this year. Barring the bottom falling out completely from other releases, but this was kind of the indication we needed, really that we wanted, to just make sure we get some kind of movies left this year. But it also does bring up some interesting questions, because this seemingly defies a lot of the trends that we have been seeing with, Delta getting worse and worse as the weeks go by. And I guess the answer, or a possible answer, could be that, oh, it's Marvel. Marvel movie sells. It doesn't matter what it is, and people show up for that. And if that's the case, people really didn't give a shit about any of the other movies. Now, there are other factors. Shang-Chi, not necessarily like Black Widow, but like Furious 9, had no streaming component. A lot of the films that were released this summer had some kind of streaming component, and that definitely had a factor to do with all of it. But a lot of big movies, like we mentioned with Suicide Squad or Space Jam or what have you, just did not generate the level of interest that Shang-Chi, Black Widow, but I think the notable thing here is that Shang-Chi definitely is being released at the time that things are going in a less than desirable direction when it comes to Delta variant and COVID. So it's a lot of thoughts to be unpacked there, but I think that's kind of the gist of where we're at. Peter, where do you start to kind of like unravel all of this, and what's your big takeaway?
This is, I know a lot of people might see this as a positive. In a lot of ways it is, but to me it just says like, I guess just Marvel movies make money. Like, that's really the foot that I'm gonna take on this. And I don't know, I find that more depressing than anything. Because if Marvel movies are failing, then that can at least say like, okay, we're not back yet. But theoretically, when we do come back, everyone would be able to succeed, right? Because if everyone's failing, that means when everyone comes back, that means everyone can succeed. But the fact that only Marvel's succeeding tells me like, I guess that's just the way things are right now. And I mean, they were already heading that way before the pandemic, so I don't know if this just exacerbated them, where they're like, I don't feel like risk, where most people are like, not only do I not have the time or money to go to a movie theater, but now I have to worry about catching something there too. So the only time I'll go is when I really, really need to go. And the only time I really, really need to go is if a Marvel movie's showing. So, I mean,
not even a DC movie could compete with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting, and I genuinely, I feel the worry in your voice, because this is something that theoretically in a vacuum we should be celebrating. But then when you think about it, wait a minute, does this mean that then people genuinely didn't give a fuck about all the other movies that came out and only will show up if it comes to the fact that Marvel is releasing a movie? And if that's the case, then maybe we kind of had it wrong when we said that that making these theatrical films available on streaming would affect or kill franchise movie making. Maybe it means that it'll just completely eliminate mid-budget and low-budget films entirely.
That's what I felt. But I felt that before the pandemic too. That was the direction we were heading, where the movie theaters were just going to become Marvel, I don't know.
Theme parks?
Basically. Marvel venues, where you go and you see the new Marvel movie. You don't go to see the new films out this weekend. You go see the new Marvel film. And in the past, it's been like, okay, well, all the blockbusters are going to be in movie theaters, and all the mid-budget and lower tier you're going to see at home and streaming, right? Oh shit, I forgot to mention one of the things I saw. I saw an comedy film called Vacation Friends, starring what's his name? Fucking Peacemaker.
I'm letting you figure it out. I'm done.
I don't remember his name.
John Cena, man.
John
It's not
Cena.
that hard.
And then Lil Ray Howery.
Yes, you got that one.
Yeah, because I remember his name because I just saw something with him. But yeah, it started
Free
those
Guy.
two. Yeah, I think that was it.
And Judas and the Black Messiah.
That was a little later. But it was like the kind of comedy that you would imagine coming out in a movie theater, and it didn't. It went straight to Hulu. And it's just this thing, and I keep seeing that. I keep seeing these films where it's like these used to be the mid-budget films that would come out in movie theaters that are just being sold off to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or all these other whatever, Apple. And yeah, but what's depressing is it's like, okay, they're only going to show blockbusters in movie theaters. Okay, but now it just seems like it's not even they're only going to show blockbusters in movie theaters. They're only going to show Disney blockbusters in movie theaters. And at that point, it's just like, fucking kill me.
I mean, look at how many high-profile movies, not necessarily blockbusters, but films that are very commercial in nature and were designed to appeal to four-quadrant audiences from a variety of studios that just completely crashed and burned. The Suicide Squad, Space Jam, Snake Eyes, In the Heights. Like, you just had a bunch of failures in a row. There were some successes with franchises, of course, not just Marvel, where you had your Quiet Place Part 2, you had Furious 7, and hell, even an original film managed to make a modest spectacle in terms of Free Guy. And Jungle Cruise, interestingly enough, was doing well in its own right.
But none of these reached the heights of Marvel.
No. Nowhere near.
That's the big takeaway for me. Like, even if they did modestly well, our thinking was, oh, they're doing well for the pandemic. Black Widow and Shang-Chi did well even without the pandemic.
Well, Furious 9. Don't forget that
and
one.
Furious, was it 9? Holy shit.
Yeah. I keep thinking Furious 7. I keep wanting to say Furious 7, but no, it was F9. They call it F9.
F9, yeah. Yeah, that's the only other one too. So yeah, it's
and to date, real quick, just to be fair about it, to date, the most successful film of the pandemic era is F9, grossing over $700 million worldwide.
Mm-hmm. But that franchise is just an anomaly to me.
Right.
I think to you too. It's people love it, and I'm not even talking about Americans, which they do though. But it's very much an international
franchise.
Praise. Yeah. On one hand, I'm really happy for like the actors of the film and the Asian representation. Like, to me, that's all awesome that they're making this money and they get to prove like, yeah, like I know they had their little spat with whoever the fuck runs Disney now about like, we are not an experiment. So to be able to come out and smash some records, yeah, like I think that's awesome and I'm happy for everyone involved. But it is worrying to me. I'll just say that.
Yeah, did a lot of good takeaways from what you just said about the fact that we have a film with a majority Asian cast that has just smashed records already. Of course, for being real here, that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the Marvel name. And that's kind of the argument that he goes back to. And that's just as comforting as it is for the fact that we'll at least be able to see the movies that were promised to us in theaters. It actually makes things even more questionable for what cinema will actually look like whenever the pandemic comes to an end. And it may be a possibility, maybe even a likely possibility, that when this thing reaches its conclusion, a lot of the mid-budget films that we would also see in movies would just go straight to streaming now. And if that is the case, I just hope people would put the pieces together and realize that means just less movies all around for the theaters.
For theater experience, yeah. And I mean, there are a lot of people that just don't give a shit about theater experience. So,
'Yeah. 'Yeah.
But for me, my biggest issue is, other blockbusters that aren't Marvel. Because I love Marvel films.
Well, look what happened to Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
No one cared.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, neither did me or you. So I can't go too hard on people because I didn't go see it.
No.
But I also wouldn't have made a film about Snake Eyes. Just make another G.I. Joe film. Stupid. But yeah, my biggest concern is blockbuster films that aren't Marvel, because mid-tier films, they'll still exist, you just won't be able to see them in the theaters. But if nobody wants to see blockbuster films that aren't Marvel, those films just won't exist anywhere. They just won't make them.
Yeah.
And that's the shit that worries me. That's where I'm kind of... Speaking of worries, you finally saw a trailer.
Well, I was going to ask you because, taking our attention to what's to come.
Yes.
Right? What's happening. The next time we're going to have a Marvel movie. And I wonder if perhaps this scenario has come across your mind. Mm-hmm. So, the next time we're going to have a Marvel movie is Eternals by Chloe Zhao. And that's going to be the first week of November. And that is going to come 2 weeks after Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which is from Warner Brothers, a very highly anticipated film that is highly hoped to be the beginning of a new franchise for the studio. I can't help but wonder if we're going to see a really depressing performance, or not necessarily performance, but a comparison of performances, where Dune comes out, and let's just say it does what Suicide Squad did in the first week, which is bad. And then Eternals comes out, and then it does exactly what Shang-Chi did just now. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll just be the proof in the pudding, as they say, with what we've been saying.
Yeah. That's what worries me. I think that's the biggest worry for me. And I can't really grasp onto any hope here. I'm going to be honest. Because, I mean, where we are at, we didn't see any trailers, just anything about the film. There's no real, I feel like there's no push for the film anywhere.
Right?
Like with Shang-Chi, I saw so many fucking trailers and posters and like I feel that shit was pushed in my face so much, and I was already gonna see it. But with Dune, I don't feel any of that at all, which is very worrisome because that's already a film that you don't know how it's going to do.
Do you think it's just not reaching our particular area, or the studio is just giving up?
I don't fucking know. I really don't. But I think it's really worrying. In a sense, I do think it speaks to a larger issue going on there. 'Cause if what we've seen so far is what will happen in the future, then people know Dune. What the fuck is Dune? Like, in a couple weeks, we're going to save our money because in a couple of weeks, we're going to go see that new Marvel film. We don't know anything about that either, but it has Marvel on it. And they're going to say Iron Man. And they're going to say Hulk. And they're going to say Thanos. And they're going to say things that we know. So we'll save our money and we'll go see that. So, yeah. Yep.
That's so fucking depressing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you say like, man, it's really hard for me to find any hope here. I don't know what hope. I don't think there is any hope. I think we already know. I think we know what the result is going to be.
Yeah, I guess. But it's like, how bad is it going to be, right?
Right.
Because...
is it going to be Suicide Squad bad or In the Heights bad?
Maybe this is too early to ask. What do you think it's going to hit? Like... 30 million? You don't even think it'll hit 30?
I don't think it'll hit 20.
You think it'll be like 11 million? That's like massive bomb. Huge.
I think the range can. I think the range can be as low as 15, and maybe as high as 25.
So between 15 and 25.
That's where I would say at the moment.
Okay.
I could definitely. Things can definitely change. Mm-hmm. Let's be real about that. It was hilarious, but what you had mentioned though is, we had been going to movies for months now, and we haven't seen a single trailer for the movie until this very last time. This is the first time we saw the trailer, and it was almost kind of hilarious how we were walking up, and you know how they have a queue there for posters, and I think you said at the moment, like, I think you were about to have a shit attack because the particular place where they had a Dune poster, it was swapped out for something else. And I think up until you realized they had moved it close by, I think you're about to think it's like, wait, did they just cancel the showings for the movie entirely? Are they not going to have it here? Because, and again, it hasn't been the studio or the reps or whatever are not like making a big part of it at the moment. Then again, the film is not even being pushed at all. But if you had forgotten, this is Warner Brothers, and this will have a simultaneous day and date release on HBO Max.
Yeah. That's another thing that just makes you go, a lot of people just aren't going to go to the theater to watch it. Their decision to put it on HBO Max has really fucked it over. I really believe it fucked it over.
I mean, it wasn't just that film that got fucked over by that decision.
I think it fucked over Suicide Squad because you don't get repeat viewings.
No.
You get 0 repeat viewings.
You get repeat viewings at home.
Mm-hmm.
As many times as you want, but not in the theaters.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I did with Suicide Squad. I saw it once in the theaters, and then I was like, oh man, I really want to watch it again. And it was one click away. So I watched it, right? Like, had that option not been available, I might have seen it 2 or 3 more times in a movie theater.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be the same way with Dune. And for most people, it's going to be their first. They're like, because they're not sold on Dune. They don't know anything about Dune. So instead of taking a risk and going to the movie theaters, they're like, oh no, it's free on HBO Max. Okay, I'll just watch it here. Because I don't know. It doesn't have Marvel above it. Like, it's not an event for me.
It also should not be forgotten that this is going to be basically coming out before Halloween. And there'll be other movies like Halloween Kills, Last Night in Soho, that are going to be taking up attention as well.
People are going to want to see horror movies.
Oh, James Bond. I forget. That's going to be an interesting one. No Time to Die.
Yep. But that has a name that has James Bond attached to it. So you'll get the dads that don't believe they'll die of COVID because they took horse tranquilizer or some shit. They'll show up. They don't give a fuck.
Horse dewormer.
Dewormer. Okay, that makes it 1 million times better.
If only they took horse tranquilizer, maybe they'd actually live.
It would do something to them. So yeah, not hopeful when it comes to this box office.
It's looking pretty bad, and it's looking worse and worse by the week. Which is awful because there's so many great actors involved in the film. And of course, it's Denis Villeneuve. And we've said for years now, not only have we been tremendously excited for the potential of what this project would look like, but because it was the beginning of a new series and how Warner Brothers really thought it could be a new crown jewel for them. That being said, if they really do feel it could be a crown jewel, they need to start fucking showing that.
They need to support it like that. Like it. They're not acting like it at all. Because not only it's I might not give as much a shit because like Suicide Squad, it's like, well, I'm really excited to make money, but fuck you, I got my movie. But with Dune, it's part 1. That's just an extra layer that's killing me because it's like that part 2 is slipping away faster and faster and faster and faster.
I was gonna say, to kind of like try and bring this to a close, it's like there will be people out there that will say, if the movie does really badly, that maybe the movie stars in the movie aren't movie stars at all, and perhaps their career should be put in question, but none more so than Denis Villeneuve, who should never be given a commercial film again. There will be voices out there saying that.
For sure. Yeah, 100%.
Which is just not...
Which sucks. Sucks so much. But again, is it though? Like, if you gave him... I really think if you just put the Marvel logo above Dune, it would make like 80 million open weekend. Because look at what happened to James Gunn, right? Like he started off his career at Marvel and he did Guardians, and they're huge hits and great movies. And then he made The Suicide Squad, which is a really good movie, and no one came to fucking see it.
No
one gave a shit. But the thing is, he would never. I don't think Denis Villeneuve would ever do a Marvel film or a Star Wars film or any of the big ones that would garner him enough attention to get the box office based on brand alone. So depressing all around.
And the worst is yet to come.
Of course.
So that's where we are right now with the state of movies. Shall we talk about the movie we saw this weekend, Mr. Martinez?
Well, real quick, did you like the trailer? You can just say
be
yeah.
Honest, I forgot about that. Yes, it looked amazing.
Great. We talked about the trailer. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. You can't outrun your destiny. Shang-Chi must confront the past he thought he left behind when he is drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization. Cast: Simu Liu, Tony Leung. I'm not gonna butcher these names.
Can I wait a minute? It was Simu Liu and then Tony Leung.
Okay. Aquafina.
Right.
Mengzhi Zhang. Fala Chen. Michelle Yeoh. I know that one. Ben Kingsley. And, a bunch of other great people. So, yeah, this was a big anticipated film for me and you. We awaited with bated breath, but we were very cautious when approaching this film, especially with hype.
Yeah.
We all saw this together, the Three Stooges, and how did you feel? What'd you?
As a reminder, our expectations had been kept even more in check because we often want to, especially in these times, guard against the hype around Marvel films in particular, because oftentimes it leads to just disappointment. And even when you're expecting disappointment, you're still disappointed. So it's like, I think it's helpful in any case to keep a lot of those expectations in check and just understand that no matter what, you'll be walking out of a movie with problems or something. So it is what it is. So whereas I was just kind of nervous and worried that we were going to get another half-assed product that really aims for the middle and does absolutely nothing interesting, I ended up actually being delighted by the film. I was entertained by it all the way through. With the cast, with the characters, in particular with the visual direction, and the hilarity that ensued. That's for sure. And some awesome, particular action sequences. I think overall, this was pretty good. I think it was better than a lot of their Marvel movies that you'd think this would be exactly like. I'll say that. I think this is a tier above those movies, if you know what I'm talking about. But I was honestly kind of like charmed by it and the actors themselves. And I think there are a lot of particular ideas that could have been expanded upon in the film itself that I really would have loved, and I think would have benefited the movie with adding an extra layer of depth with some of the relationships and some of the key characters. I guess like overall, I really enjoyed Simu Liu and Awkwafina's dynamic on screen, and they kind of really did carry the movie, at least for me. I really liked Tony Leung as what's his name? Wenwu?
Wenwu, yeah.
Wenwu.
Come on, you got to remember these names.
The Mandarin.
No, well,
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And of course, Ben Kingsley. Mm-hmm. Anytime he was on screen. Again, we'll get to that in a bit. There are some things in this movie that you just can't help but feel the hand of Marvel once again twisting some things up. And in some cases, I will say it did work for me, even though on principle, I rather they wouldn't do that. But somehow the humor ended up, I don't know, winning that over in the end. In some of these scenes, not all of them. I guess off top, what I would say is it's still, I don't think was all the way great. I still would have liked more as much as what they did in terms of like reaching for some new stuff, especially with the third act. And a lot of, I think a lot of how they were trying to emulate some of these classic martial arts films. I still would have rather they've gone a little bit further than what we got. But the effort, any kind of ambition than just the usual stuff is appreciated. And the fact that we had a Marvel movie that didn't feel and look like their usual action unit or their usual VFX unit was appreciated. And I think even in this effort made a world of difference. But still, I would want the bar to be set a little bit higher as we go with these movies. Yeah, it's an interesting world. It kind of reminded me of like what I think Iron Fist was kind of supposed to be. I don't know if the show, right? Like it had.
Iron Fist has kind of been the resident martial arts character in the Marvel universe.
Right.
And they kind of kicked him to the side and elevated Shang-Chi.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure they meant to kick him that hard to the side, considering how things turned out.
Yeah.
Because that was bad. Yeah, I will say if there were other criticisms, I'm not saying that they didn't have any kind of dynamic that was interesting, but I don't know if it was the actors or if it was just the refusal to do anything more with it than what it was on the surface in the relationship between Wenwu and Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. I think it worked. I think it mostly worked for what it was trying to do, but I think it could have been better handled and, I don't know, something else than what it was. I kind of go back and forth because I wasn't sure. I wasn't quite sure exactly what to make of a certain character in this movie, the sister, and her place in all this, because she does have a role to play, and I'm not sure if perhaps it was the material she was given or the performance that kind of made her feel like a wet blanket of some sort. That may be a bit harsh, honestly. I don't mean to be that harsh to it, because I think overall it was enjoyable and I liked it, but I'm just, these are my initial thoughts of where we are with the movie. But I think it's a winner. I was won over by it, and I walked out of the movie happy, which was not how I walked out of Black Widow.
It's weird. The only film I've never walked out of happy was Ant-Man and the Wasp. Every other one, Marvel, and I think that's the trick of Marvel movies. They're entertaining while you watch them. My issue is just they have like a lot of them have zero staying power. So yeah, when it comes to Shang-Chi, this is really the most conflicted I've been in a long time. When it comes to a film, man, I don't even know where to start. I'll say this. I've noticed that Marvel films, their first act is usually their best act. I've noticed that. And somewhere around the second act, things get muddy, and then the third act is just kind of like
a light show.
Yeah, it's a light show. It's so much of everything that's set up before just kind of gets swept aside because we have to do this thing. This film reminds me, it's funny, I thought I would be comparing it to Black Panther, which it is somewhat like, but I actually feel it's a lot more like Aquaman. And I had read a tweet today about someone saying, you know, watching Shang-Chi makes me feel, you know, that much more pissed off at Aquaman because Shang-Chi does all the story and character stuff so much better than Aquaman. And that's, you know, it's just like, fuck, like Aquaman dropped the ball. And for me, I kind of feel not the opposite, but I just feel so differently. And that Aquaman knew it was fucking stupid, so it was so much more fun. Right, because it was just ridiculous live action cartoon bullshit for 2.5 hours, and I was in heaven. Whereas here, it has some of that, but then it tries to do serious storytelling, which I think they doesn't do a good job of really at all. But I know a lot of people think they do because a lot of people are like, consider this the greatest superhero film ever made. Like a lot of people love this film. Like I don't know if you've seen the scores for this film.
I was gonna mention 99% audience score.
Yeah, on Letterboxd,
Rotten Tomatoes,
it's like 3.9, which is fucking high as fuck. Like people really, really love this. But for me, like, again, in comparison to Aquaman, it just frustrates me more because I feel like Aquaman knows what it is and it just goes for it, and that's why it works for me. Whereas here, it tries to be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And because it tries to be so many things, it's only okay in most of them. And bad in some, and a few things here and there I think are really great. But it's very, to me, it tries to do way too much, and it ends up feeling like someone said, oh my god, the pacing is incredible. 50% of this film was flashback. I don't know about that. Like, I don't, let me start with the things I love. Again, for whatever reason, first act of Marvel movies just work for me. Like the first act of Black Widow, I was like, oh shit, I'm into this, right? I feel like every Marvel movie, the first act is like, oh shit, let's go. And then it either works or it doesn't from there on out. But usually when it doesn't work, it's because they don't commit. And I feel that's kind of the problem here, kind of. I don't know. But the first act I really liked. I loved the 10 rings weapon itself. I think is really fucking cool. I like it. I like the action scenes with it. Yeah. All of that. Tony Leung, great actor. You can tell, like, he's one of those where he's like, I don't give a fuck about, like, he's an actor, right? That they just kind of bring into this shit. And he doesn't treat it like a comic book movie. He treats it as a film, and that really shines through. He's great. I agree with you. I love Awkwafina and Simu Liu together. I love that they're a pair. I think that's so great. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm one of the few that I would have liked to see it'd be romantic. Kill me. I don't know. Sue me, whatever. I would have liked to see that turn romantic, but it didn't. Okay. The action was good. The action was really well choreographed, well shot. Like, you would feel the hits. And yeah, every action scene is really well done. But again, the best action scene is in the first act, which is in that bus scene.
Yeah.
I think that's easily the best sequence in the film.
Although there was an earlier one that I also thought was pretty top notch.
Are you talking about
different reasons?
With the flashback one?
Yeah. No, well, I'm talking about the one with Tony Leung and what's her name? With Tony Leung and
his wife,
his mom. Yeah.
Oh no, that was great.
When they first meet. Yeah.
Yes. No, I really. That was the next thing I was gonna say. Visually, that scene as well. The fighting, the action, the way the action told a story. It was a love story between the two. But that's what I mean. I was like, that first act, it's like, I'm loving this. Great. Like, boom, 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 boom. No, that's, and visually, like, they're trying to harken back to, especially, stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and a lot of other, martial arts films, Hero. And it's cool. I really, really liked it. Where it starts to get fuzzy for me is probably around the point where they go to get the sister. Because at that point, and this is where I feel they're doing too much. Because you have... These are, to me, are like the different story threads throughout that are set up throughout the film. In the very beginning, I feel like they do set up a very real will they, won't they between Simu Liu and Awkwafina, which they never really come back to. But I feel that was set up in the first act. Then you have a brother-sister thing going on where he abandoned her and she feels hurt about it. Like, that's a whole thing that's not really delved into at all, but that's set up, like the dynamic between Shang-Chi and his sister. And then you have the dynamic between Wenwu and his daughter, Shang-Chi's sister, and then the dynamic between him, Wenwu, and his son, Shang-Chi. And then you have this whole thing with Awkwafina, like, she's kind of lazy and she's not reaching her full potential. And there's like, there's so many different dynamics where it feels like they're trying to build on them, but they don't have time to build on them that they set up. And then in the third act, it's all like, oh, and this great evil that exists. Wait, what great evil? You waited until the fucking third act to reveal that there's this great evil thing going on? Like, to me, that's like first act shit you set up, right? Like, you should have had the mother in the first act when she's talking to her kids be like, yes, in my village we're guardians, we guard the great evil at the gates from such and such and such. But you wait until the third act and go like, but wait, there's more. And there's like rapid fire, the third act, there's so much shit introduced. Yeah, I just feel like there's so much shit thrown at the wall with this film and no time to develop really any of it. But the film tries. There's so many flashbacks. But to me, that's not development. Like let me take one. Like the relationship between Shang-Chi and his sister, right? it's set up like, oh, she feels abandoned, this whole thing. You see like multiple flashbacks about it. She talks about it multiple times about how she felt abandoned and she said it on her own. But there's really nothing until the third act when she's like, let me go. And he's like, I won't let you go, Jack. And that was kind of supposed to be the culmination of that whole thing. And it's like nothing. Like it's bullshit. It doesn't work at all, in my opinion. But I guess it works for everyone else. I don't know. Yeah, they should have just picked one thing. Just instead of these a million other branches of characters and the way they interact, should have just cut out the sister entirely. But I know why they want the sister, because they want the girl boss 10 rings at the end of the film. That's the entire reason she's in the film. So we can get to that after credits scene. And she did it on her own. No man helped her. We get it, Disney. What would really help is if you gave her more to her character, to development, or anything like that. But yeah, I really wish they would have just pared it all the way down to just a father-son sort of thing. Because even the way that wraps up is really weird. I feel like there's no real resolution to that.
It just kind of abruptly goes away.
Yeah, like he gets caught by the dragon and he gives his son the 10 rings, but it all happens so fast and they don't really discuss it after or dwell on it, or to me it just doesn't work. I think it really falls apart, all the character stuff. They try to set it up and they try to do a lot of things, but I really feel they're spinning too many plates and those plates crash and fall by the end of it. But
yeah,
this is why I really wish it would have just not tried in the first place. Go full Aquaman. Just be fucking dumb, stupid fun. Because when it was just on a visceral fun level, it worked for me, right? Like the action was great. The humor was great. There's a big ass fucking dragon that fights another big ass fucking dragon. Fuck yeah, I love that shit. I thought the designs of all the creatures, fucking Trevor Slattery was hilarious. Like if it I just wanted it to go full Aquaman. Like, this is silly, this is dumb. You know, like, stop trying to just be like, oh yeah, it's this. Like, no, just pare it down, bare bones, just go, right? Because all that stuff I actually really liked. And it is very different and out there for Marvel. They do a lot of really cool stuff that, again, I really liked. But then pair with everything else, it becomes kind of a mixed bag for me. So I don't know how. This is a film, like, I really wish I could watch it again. I need a repeat viewing to really see where I fall. Because I don't know. There's too much that I liked about the film for me to say that I don't like it. But there's too much that I have issues with for me to say that I loved it. So I guess I'm one of the few in the middle when it comes to Shang-Chi. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think all of the points that you brought up are pretty much kind of like a lot of the feelings I had thought about. Maybe not in those particular words, but I did feel like overall, like it. That's what you said about the trick of Marvel movies, is they really leave you in a good spot, and because you feel good, and I think people just come to the conclusion that everything must have been good because I walked away happy, right? And maybe like it worked well enough while I watched it, so why would anybody say it was bad? But then when you think about it and you realize, oh, wait a minute, because I did enjoyed just about all the performances, and while ultimately I walked away with the movie feeling like, hey, I had fun. That was some real fun, and especially I think the stuff that you and I feel are great, or we agree on entirely. That's kind of the stuff that I was like latching onto.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what I really wasn't latching onto was like, oh yeah, I love Shang-Chi as this great new Marvel character, and I love the way the storyline was resolved with him and his dad and his sister, because it just kind of didn't.
No.
And it wasn't enough to be obviously bad. Because a lot of other things were so good to distract you. But then when you go back and you realize, like, well, wait a minute, why did it end there? And I wanted more of it because I don't think I had enough of it. And I think kind of goes back to what you were saying is, well, wait a minute, the movie is just trying to do too much. And it's trying to service all these different storylines. But it ends up in this place where, in trying to do everything and trying to please everything, you just end up in a place where you don't get much of it right beside the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of where we go back to with most of these movies from Marvel.
Like, Shang-Chi's whole thing of, he's like, I'm gonna kill my dad. Like, you don't understand, I'm a killer. I'm like,
let me tell you something.
Haven't you been killing motherfuckers this entire film?
Did he say that? I'm not a killer?
Well, he was talking to Awkwafina, and he's like, remember how I said I didn't kill, because that mission that he went on as a 14-year-old boy to go and kill the person that killed their mom, he initially told Awkwafina he didn't go through with it. But in that moment, towards the end, he's like, I'm not who you think I am. Basically saying he did go through with it, and then saying, like, I know what I have to do. I have to kill my dad. And it's like this big, sad, emotional thing and stuff like that. And it's this implication that, like, killing bad. But he's been killing people this entire film. Right? Like, I saw him throw people out of moving cars and land on their head. I don't think they're getting back up. I don't understand.
I think they were going for more of the personal touch, so that he would go to such great lengths to not just kill, but to kill his dad. At least that's what they were going for. I had other reasons. I feel like maybe it was similar or not, but when that scene was playing out, I'm like, can we not do this? Because, you know, I feel like when you have these scenes, oh, I'm gonna kill him, you're already telegraphing to us he's not gonna kill him.
Yeah.
So it just feels like a waste of time, and it makes me feel like, okay, can we skip this and move on? Because you've already told me how this is gonna go by just having this entire scene. And also just, it was placed in a really weird spot. It feels like it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, that's why when people are like, oh my god, it has such good editing, does it? I feel like there's so many flashbacks, some of them unnecessary and some of them placed in really weird spots. Like, just another example, when he goes and he fights his sister in the ring, right as she's walking away, you get a flashback to them as kids and him saying, like, I have to go for a while, but I'll be back. And then her going like,
was that necessary?
But that's the thing, like, literally 2 seconds later, she tells that story to Awkwafina in their office. She's like, when we were a boy, and it's like, I just saw this flashback. Why are you telling me the story again, like a minute ago? Like, there's a lot of flashbacks that just aren't necessary. Like, all you need to tell me is this happened, right? I don't need to visually see it, and it just takes up time out of the film that would do better to go towards developing these characters where they are right now. Especially with his dad, like, Shang-Chi's whole thing is like you need to accept that you come from two different worlds. Two worlds, one
that
family.
was so weird. And you know what? Thinking
know.
back on it right now, that was kind of I guess halfway through the film, I realized they weren't going to do this because I really thought, based off on the trailers, and what kind of was interesting is that, Wenwu brings back his son, and he let him live 10 years as he wanted, and now he is going to force this dynasty upon him. And
that's what I thought it was going to be, yeah.
And Shang-Chi was going to refuse it at every step. But I thought that was the movie we were going to get. And I think that would have led to a far more interesting dynamic and chemistry and, I don't know, depth to them. And that just kind of wasn't it. And that wasn't even here at all. Like, he wasn't even... The only reason, like, he even brought them was like, oh, I think your mom's back. And by me bringing her, you're going to come live with us again. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of made it seem like he didn't give a shit about his kids anymore. Like, it's just like, oh no, your mom's calling me. And then he went to me, he just kind of went from being sympathetic to like a crazy person. And it's like, but again, the way everything is so resolved is just so like, and now he's dead. Okay. I don't. It's a bit how does that reflect on his character and everything we've shown of him? He just dies. Okay. How does that wrap up his relationship with him and the son?
I think what they thought was daughter. I think what they thought is we'll show him when things get really bad and that dragon comes out and he heads toward them, he'll have like a parent instinct where he will push his son to safety and sacrifice himself. Mm-hmm. I think they thought that is resolution enough for the relationship.
See, I feel it would have worked better if the evil dragon, which gets zero explanation, it's an evil dragon. Talk about what I would have preferred for a flashback. We just saw cave paintings for that shit. I think it would have worked better if the evil dragon came to him and is like, if you free me, I can give you the power to bring your wife back to life. And to me that makes sense because literally the whole point of the dragon is that it steals souls, right? So you would think in maybe some twisted way it can bring the soul of his wife back and to me I think that would work better because it's like, okay, he's willing to go to great lengths to bring her back, but it's not just like, oh, I hear her, she's right there. Like, he's not a crazy person. He's just sort of driven to go to very, driven pretty far to do pretty bad things, all for the love of his wife. And I think then what you would have had is the dragon try and take this, once he freed the dragon, it tried to take his children's souls, and then that's when he's like, fuck you, and then he takes on the dragon one-on-one. Wenwu, right, and then maybe ultimately dies, and then he gives them to his son, and then his son, he does the thing where he lights up the dragon's stomach and does. Thematically, I think that works so much better, other than just...
I would have preferred to have seen that, but I think you are right to say that, it kind of... They really are too heavy-handed on making him feel like a complete lunatic, because I was thinking to myself when he was opening up that gate by himself, and these creatures were slipping through, and it's like, do you not realize that at this point, when you think your dead wife is on the other side of this wall, you've already seen and heard these creatures slip through And do you not hear the screams from your own people coming across the other side of the water, fighting them? What do you think that is?
And I what bothered me is Shang-Chi never was like, turn around, look up, look at the village. And had he never heard the tale of how that village existed to keep back that evil?
I mean, you think the wife would say something like that?
Yeah.
Since she does come from there?
She never dropped that knowledge bomb on any of them, apparently, because the audience doesn't know about that shit until the very end of the movie. It's so, I don't know. To me, I really think just like story-wise and character arc-wise, it's a fucking mess. Like a big old mess. That's why I'm really surprised people are like, it's the greatest fucking movie that's ever existed. And like, there's some really cool shit in it, but like, I don't know if you'd be overlooking these things if it didn't have the Marvel logo attached to it. I really don't. But then again, this movie wouldn't exist if it didn't have the Marvel logo attached to it, so who knows? For everything that just left me baffled, and it's like, yeah, this isn't working, I don't like it, there's other things that I really enjoyed. I loved Mr. Slattery.
Trevor Slattery. I loved him in Iron Man 3. I loved him in his own Marvel one-shot film, All Hail the King. And we were given a tease that at some point we would see that character come back. And let's just say that he kills every moment he's in this movie. And you'd think, like, a reference to Iron Man 3, you'd think this would be a cheap way of connecting this to the Marvel Universe. In a way it is. Mm-hmm. But it works really well here. And Kingsley, has he ever been this funny? Jesus Christ, this was so good. Everything.
You could tell he adores doing this character. You could tell he has so much fun. I'd watch a one-man show on fucking Broadway of Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery. He's just funny. He's just so funny. So yeah, it's like stuff like that where I'm like, I dig it. And I did like the little magical, the Chinese magical world that they created.
Yes.
The Nine Fox Tales. And again, if they had removed a lot of unnecessary shit, you'd have more time to properly set that world up.
I just thought of two interesting Marvel tropes that have been annoyances that had just occurred to me. So the first thing that we were talking about a few minutes ago about the use of flashbacks. I think Black Panther did this too, where you like, it starts off in the past and you see a version of a scene, and then toward the third act you see it in a different light. Mm-hmm. They do it here too, where you see where Shang-Chi is telling Katie about his past and how he was sent to go kill off the killer of his mom. And then we see, where Wenwu is handing him the knife and everything.
They do that like 3 times, don't they?
Yeah, literally. So, and then the other thing, which is what we just realized, it was nice to see that really like, I guess, Chinese-inspired spiritual dimension of stories. Mm-hmm. Gee, wouldn't that have been maybe a place to have spent more time in? And wouldn't this be another example of them creating really interesting locations and worlds that we seemingly cannot spend that much time in because we have to be on Earth for most of the movie?
Yeah, it's literally like, hey, look, guys, a magical world. Now let's do the third act battle. Right? Like, no time at all. That's why they try to create, again, they try to have this other subplot to like Aquafina where it's like, apply yourself more. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Michael Scott. They're trying to have that, but it's this really weird rush thing where it's like they show up and it's like, okay, now within 8 hours, she learned how to shoot a bow, and now she's going to save the day at the end, and that's going to be a lesson to go for things in life. Like, it's so poorly done, so poorly set up, and so poorly executed. And I feel it wouldn't feel like that, I think, if we had spent at least half the movie in this magical world, which I think would have been really cool. But because the dragon wasn't really set up either. It's just like at the end, guess what? There's also a dragon. Okay. I guess.
Yeah, and also, how does Shang-Chi get his powers again?
The 10 rings.
There was some confusion I had with that third act myself as to like where did I don't know if I tuned out, but I missed the part. Even though I was watching it, I missed the part where all of a sudden the rings were obedient to him now, as well as
I think it's because of the dragon magic. Because if you remember in the beginning with the mom and the dad fight, she's able to take control of the rings away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because he was able to master his mom's style of fighting, he was able to take control away of the rings from the dad.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It just comes off like a lot of gobbledygook, kind of.
Doesn't it?
And that's the thing. If we weren't asked to take it so seriously, I could go along with it real easy. Just be like, we're having fun.
Right. But let's note that if it did take the Aquaman approach,
mm-hmm.
then what would the response be from these people who are jumping up and down about Shang-Chi? It would be the response that the Suicide Squad received, which was, it was fun, but there's not much more than that to it. I don't know if maybe we're just like, I don't know. It feels oftentimes that we just are being pushed further and further away from mainstream island with a lot of these movies. I don't know. We love things, guys. I just want to make that clear. We love things. And let me tell you, there are things that Peter and I have said that we love about this movie.
Uh-huh.
There may be a lot of things that are kind of confusing. Like, to me, overall, I will say, I like the movie. I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Even with all of these gobbledygook stuff that's attached to it, I still had a really good time. And perhaps it could be a situation where I watch this again, maybe months down, and I realize, well, maybe this wasn't as entertaining or as engaging as it was the first time. Kind of like with Black Panther or other films of that sort. And it could be that situation. I will say, though, off the top, I do think I did enjoy this better than Black Panther, which, interestingly enough, is with all of the, hullabaloo being made about it, every single last one of these people who loved Shang-Chi would say, but it's still no Black Panther, though. And that's another thing I'm like, okay, well, add that to the list of things I just can't relate to.
Yeah.
But okay.
But as far as like we don't like things, we gave a positive review to Free Guys and Jungle Cruise. Like, we're clearly liking things.
We gave positive reviews to Free Guy, The Jungle Cruise,
yeah,
The Green Knight,
yeah,
Luca,
yes,
even
The Suicide Squad,
A Quiet Place 2.
Yes. So
most of the movies we've talked about, Candyman was another one we just did. I mean, there you go. Like, most of our reviews are positive.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear. And I know, like, I didn't say this to Kyle because I feel like he has these preconceived notions of us and doesn't like want to like recognize that we kind of like are not what he feels that we are. But like he said, like, it was surprising to hear you guys be positive for a change when he listened to our Suicide Squad review. It's hilarious because that's all the evidence you need to know that he doesn't listen to our shows, because most of our reviews are positive. Yes. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
I refuse to buy into the world where if you don't like every Marvel movie, you're a negative Nancy.
And there are movies that that you like that I don't care as much for.
For sure.
And there are movies that I like that you don't care as much for. I liked In the Heights. I liked Ride the Last Dragon.
Yeah. Which this reminded me a lot of, by the way.
Raya?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that. So it's like I don't get it. And also, like, look at all the coverage we've given to TV shows this year where, like, all of which have had their fair share of issues. I think with one exception, though. But we still... I don't know. I think most of the stuff that we dedicate our time to is stuff that we actually like.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
I just want to push back on the narrative right now that we're negative on this, because I don't think so.
I still like this movie.
Yeah.
You know? And even while I've come to really loathe Black Widow, I still would say it's not a bad film. I still say that, you know? Like,
I've always said I was entertained when I saw the film.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like I didn't enjoy my time watching it. And the same goes for this film. This film has some of the biggest laughs I've ever had in a Marvel film.
Real.
Easily. The first end credit scene killed me. It was so good. It was really good.
Jesus Christ, it was so good, man. Yeah, the humor I think really kills overall, but some of these scenes were so great. Even something like Tom and Jerry, which is not good, even I was like, hey, it was stupid, it was dumb, it was bad, but I still walked away with enjoying some of it. Even the Snyder Cut, which altogether isn't good, there was still enjoyment to be found, and we still had positive things to say about that. Even last week when I talked about Season 2 of The Mandalorian with David, I still said some nice things about some of the aspects of the show.
The technology.
Yes, the technology. Speaking of which, you need to get on that and watch that so we can talk about it on this show next time.
Oh, no.
Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, which I would have, included in what I saw this week, but I'm actually hoping that Peter and I can go more in depth together.
See, now this is where I need to become part of the narrative and say that you want to just unleash negative old me on this. You know how I will react. You know it in your heart.
I know that what I do really is of no consequence, especially with what happens later on in the year. It is what it is. What can I tell you? Yeah.
To bring it to Shang-Chi.
Which they make sure to remind you in the movie.
Yeah.
How to pronounce his name.
Shang-Chi. This is for me, it's like a 2 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of situation.
I see.
Where it does a lot of great things where I'm like, yes, this is what I want out of Marvel. And then it brings them all the way back to the start line with a lot of the same bullshit that Marvel has done and just will always do till the end of time. And it just leaves me in the middle. I honestly don't know. I enjoyed the film, but I know for a fact I'm not in love with it.
I think for me, maybe I'm not as indecisive as you are about it. I think I recognize the same shortcomings that you do and agree with them. But I guess at the moment, I will say that there was enough to, I guess, put this in the win column and say that I do like it. That can change, and that has changed.
That's what worries me.
Yeah.
This feels like a film that, like 6 months from now, I could either go like, man, you know what, I really like it. Or go like, man, this is fucking soured on me. I really don't care for this film. I feel like it can go in either category. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just still in the middle. Like, I really can't come down hard on either end. So.
Well, we still got 2 Marvel movies to go this year.
This year? Holy shit.
2 very different Marvel movies. We've got The Eternals, and we also got Spider-Man No Way Home.
I really hope I like the Eternals, like really like it, because
you know what's going to happen.
You already know. I know what I'm feeling with Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, to me, not as bad. I don't think anything can ever be as bad as Rise of Skywalker. But it's in that same sort of category where it's like, I know what I'm walking into, and I know I'm not going to like it. So I got a lot of high hopes for a living, as Mr. Buttigieg says in The Eternals.
Jesus.
Did you see he's a papa now?
Mm-hmm. He and his husband have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I'm sure he'll use that for all it's worth in his next presidential campaign.
Every fucking speech, not only as a veteran, but as a father. You know, when I look over at Chasten and my 2 young, beautiful children, I think about their future. I think about what America means. I'm sorry. It's the only reason we don't like Buttigieg is because he was made in a vat to be like the politician. He has all of the trademarks.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where that shtick gets him.
Yeah.
I mean, so far it's gotten him a I don't know why are we talking about him right now? I don't this isn't a political podcast. Why did people
not yet?
I'm sorry. No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to get into this right now because then, why? Yeah. I think I'm done talking. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie. And I hope that if you listen to this, I hope you continue to watch more movies and not just the same kind of movies. Because I love movies, and I think like through the years, it is very helpful for you to like movies in general much more by just exposing yourself to more than just one kind of movie.
I'd agree.
I really do feel that way. Because look at the stuff that we've covered, from Candyman to The Green Knight. Even if it's like not great, like Respect, to Tom and Jerry, to The Snyder Cut, to Judas and the Black Messiah, to The Father, to Barb and Star, to Luca, In the Heights. Look at all these different kinds of films. This is what movies are about, and I would really encourage people to just remind themselves, look, don't maybe train yourself to not want the exact same story, the exact same kind of movie every single time. You'll be surprised what you will like if you step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I found that myself. Which is, by the way, a big plug to check back to the Table with Peter and I, who have brought it back for September and for October, our seasonal show. And guess what? We've got a themed month's programming. Our first episode, Candyman, the original 1992 movie, is already live. Ooh. And there will be many more to come in the next 2 months. Again, the show where Peter and I come together and we talk about films, particularly that I haven't seen. So we can talk about them and then bring more attention to them. And, you know, because we want to also use our vast number of shows that we do to not just do Marvel or DC or Star Wars. And I feel that through the years, we've been better about covering more stuff than just that, because it did used to be, at least when Peter and I first started doing the show, that's all it would be. It would be go back to Disney, Star Wars, Marvel. That's what it was for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like through the years, we've been better about talking about as many different kinds of stories and movies in this space.
But I mean, that's why Kyle Lira left to start the Disney podcast. He said, fuck that.
That is one interpretation of it, Mr. Martinez. As a reminder, other films that we'll cover this year will be Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright, which is already getting early reactions. Ooh. We have Dune by Denis Villeneuve. Eternals by Chloe Zhao. Then we have some interesting franchise revivals and sequels like Halloween Kills, as well as No Time to Die, which is going to be Daniel Craig's final James Bond film. We mentioned Spider-Man No Way Home. There's still Ghostbusters Afterlife. Apparently there's also Top Gun that's happening this year.
I think they pushed it, didn't they?
Did they? I thought it was Mission Impossible that was pushed, not Top Gun.
Okay, never mind.
Mission Impossible 7, I think, was pushed to 2022. Wait. Oh, no, 2023 maybe.
Holy shit.
I don't remember which one. Yeah, it was a while back. I mean, there's a while back they're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
West Side Story, Dear Evan Hansen. If you want musicals, they'll be there. Encanto is also coming out this year as well.
That's right.
So, and that's not even getting into some of the awards circuit films
that are
the
barely
Oscar-bait
starting
films
to get screened.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even know what those are yet.
Right. Usually we have a better idea when we get to November, December about what those are. So, we still got a lot of work left to do this year as far as our show. And I think I'm just thankful that the movie did well enough we can still get to have those experiences and that they won't be hopefully too interrupted. Remind me real quick, did Sony make a final decision about what's happening with Venom? Is that still going to come out opposite Halloween Kills, or are they going to move it after all to 2022?
I honestly don't know.
Because as it stands right now, it was moved from this month to literally open the same week as Halloween Kills. That's going to be an interesting scenario. I'm not sure it'll help either movie.
Were you going to watch that film?
Hell, you know me. I didn't watch the movie, the first film. I had no interest to, and given everything I've heard about it, I've had no desire to watch the first one, and it gives me no desire to watch this one. I think the trailers look dumb.
Yeah,
and it's just stupid, and I don't care.
I don't care
honestly.
Either. And I feel like I'm more inclined to care, but I don't. Yeah.
So if that is what happens, I'll be walking into the theater that says Halloween Kills, because that one I'm very much gonna watch, come hell or high water.
Ditto.
So, yeah. That's gonna be our show today. Thank you all for listening. We'll have much more programming in the future. Check out our podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, CastBox, all of the above. Stay under the spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Have a nice holiday. Bye-bye.